Not really the news that we wanted to start off with here today, but waking up this morning, I'm sure everybody saw former Pittsburgh Steeler Franco Harris has passed away. Franco Harris is most famous for the Immaculate Reception. He won 4 Super Bowls. I believe all were with the Steelers. And it's actually the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception on Christmas Eve. So that's why the Raiders and the Steelers are playing each other, for those that don't know. So Franco Harris passing away at 72 years old. And another kind of sad note, former Broncos running back Ronnie Hillman is fighting for his life right now. I believe I read that he is on hospice right now with cancer. So just a couple of tough headlines to start off with the episode here, but we got to talk about it. It's the unfortunate part about, the NFL, I guess. But let's get into something a little bit more happy here. So Braden, I know this has kind of became like a weekly thing where you'll ask me about Trevor Lawrence. So I think we should make this just a weekly thing, at least for the rest of the regular season.
Indeed.
I guess we'll find out if we need to talk about this during the playoffs. So I give you the Trevor Tracker. Let's talk about the number one overall pick from 2021, Trevor Lawrence. My gosh, battles his team back against the Dallas Cowboys. This guy has been just a driving force, like, I don't know, maybe the past 5, 6 weeks or so. He beat a good Dallas team.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting, the Jaguars, they don't have a winning record right now, of course, but they are still in the division race here. And, if they win week 18 against the Titans, it's very possible that they'll win the division. But Trevor Lawrence has just been incredible up to this point so far of the season. And I think he is finally showing why he was the first overall pick. Now, last year, was totally kind of a wash. I mean, everybody on the Jaguars pretty much said, okay, this is now his rookie year because last year was just such a disaster with the supporting cast and everything from Urban Meyer to, basically everything else that went into Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. He was thrown into the fire right away as a starter. But I think now we're finally seeing why he was the first overall pick.
Yeah, definitely. To your point, yeah, last year was not the best situation for him. I mean, we all know that the Urban Meyer situation that didn't help him at all. So, yeah, this is technically his rookie year. If you want to push last year away, he's actually got some coaching help this year, and I'd say offensive pieces are a lot bigger upgrade this year than last year. The addition of ETN from the injury in the preseason last year, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram from the Giants. I mean, all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of time till we start having MVP talks about Trevor Lawrence within the next couple of years.
So, if the Jacksonville Jaguars win out, they will win the division and be in the playoffs. If they win 2 of the 3, there's a 67% chance that they make it. But I'm pretty sure if the Titans lose either 1 or 2 of those, then they will also be. And not to mention, the Titans are having some quarterback issues.
Yeah.
I know they've just picked up Josh Dobbs today, I believe, off the Browns. And this could cause some chaos. I'd love to see the Jaguars make it to the playoffs. I think they could cause some serious damage.
Yeah, definitely. I think this might be like a. I don't know how stout the defense is on that team. I've only seen offensive play. I've only paid attention to offensive plays because that's kind of been like the big ticking boomer on that team. The big explosive offensive plays that have been the highlights. But this kind of reminds me of like when Blake Bortles, he didn't bring him to the playoffs. and
Yeah,
play. Who would they play against?
New
Was
England.
the Patriots?
Yep.
Yeah, this is kind of like that situation, but
I believe they lost because of a play was whistled dead too, and
yeah,
they would have got a touchdown.
yeah. I don't remember when that was. I don't remember what year it was. I think it was like what was it like 2016, 17? I don't remember when
I
it
think it
was.
was 17.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, I kind of look at that as like this type of situation because we all know. I think we all can say that Jacksonville just had a slow start to the season with the new coaching staff and all the new pieces, but now I think they're right or I think they're figuring it out.
Yep.
And I'm going to compare this team to that team that Blake Bortles was on in the playoffs and unfortunately lost in the championship game. But the way I want to compare it is kind of like reverse roles. Like this is the offense carrying this team, not the defense.
Yeah. Yeah, that defense was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of stars. I mean,
Yeah,
Calais
I'm sorry.
Campbell. Yeah. But yeah, now they're a different team. I mean, that team, Blake Bortles was just kind of a passenger. They use Fournette, ran him into the ground quite a bit. But yeah, it's interesting to see now Trevor Lawrence. Um, Something that I was thinking too. So obviously we know he's going to get Calvin Ridley back next year.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll for sure have Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, and then assuming Ingram will be back, I don't know what his contract situation is, but then they can use the run game too. I mean, ETN had over 100 rushing yards last game, and Cam Robinson, his left tackle, just went out. It sounds like he's done for the year. So Walker Little, the second year man out of Stanford, I believe, is stepping in at left tackle. And so I almost feel like with the Jaguars' first round pick, they should probably try to bolster that offensive line for Trevor Lawrence. It's the best thing that they can do for themselves because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of suitors for Orlando Brown this offseason to play left tackle. And I just don't think that the Jaguars are really going to win that bidding war.
Yeah, I mean they had a lot of bidding wars this off season, and they won a lot of those. So yeah, they probably don't want to go too deep into it this year.
I mean, to get Orlando Brown to come to Jacksonville, what that's going to be probably 30 million a year or so, I would guess. And right now the Jaguars are tight to the cap, so my guess is they'll be potentially trying to look to find Cam Robinson's replacement in the draft.
Speaking of that championship game where the play was whistled dead earlier, how about that Vikings game? Shandon Sullivan, 2 touchdowns blown dead. We were at this game. The crowd was just fuming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so I think so we've seen this now plenty of times where the officials are blowing plays dead when they really should just let them go. And I mean, as we saw there, it ended up costing 2 defensive touchdowns. And I just don't get why they're blowing them dead because they can always go back and fix it. You know, if you blow it dead and then you go back and review it, I mean,
Right.
there's nothing you can do in terms of a scoop and score. Like, yeah, the one fumble, I think they gave it back to the Vikings, but you just can't be doing this. And that that crowd, I mean, was crazy hating the refs. There was a lot of refs you suck chants going, but may or may not have participated in them myself. But yeah, I just don't understand the whole thing of let's blow it dead, and then we saw on I believe it was Sunday night the Commanders and the Giants. The refs played a big factor there. I think we just need to see them swallow their whistles. I mean they're having way too much influence over the game nowadays, and I think we just need to see them take a step back.
There's no like punishment for it. Then they don't give an
Right.
explanation on why it was called that. Like if you check the Twitter page on NFL for officiating, they'll have like a play from the game that the call was terribly uh, officiated, and the comments, oh man, comments just rip them to shreds. They're like, "How about this play? Can you give an explanation on this play?" But it's just like, this play was whistle dead because he did not maintain possession. That's such like a robot post.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I was listening to a K-Fan, which is the Minnesota local sports radio network. I was listening to K-Fan, and I heard Paul Allen say some like, I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this not the officiating crew's first game they officiated?
What's it?
I'm pretty sure I heard him say something like that.
I don't know.
Maybe not from him, but someone else. I'm pretty sure I heard something like that.
I don't think they try him out and whatever it was that week 4 or 15.
Well, okay, I feel like, because I have something to back this up, because I watch a lot of football and I've never seen that ref before.
I was gonna say that too. I mean, it's kind of hard to see it from where we were seeing, but it was on the jumbotron, and
Yep.
I think I did say once or twice I've never seen these refs before.
I do think though, it's possible that they're new this year, but yeah, because what they do in the NFL is they have a certain number of officiating crews,
Yep.
and each officiating crew does basically like every single game, or they do each team once, I believe. So I don't think you ever see the same officiating crew twice. And then when it comes time for playoffs, it's basically like an all-star selection. So they go back and select the ones from the best, the best line judge, the best back judge, all that stuff, and they kind of throw them onto one staff, and they have them all do the playoff games, I believe.
Another thing you have to remember is it's a Saturday. I know, or usually you're accustomed to watching football on Sundays on the weekend, but there could have been a situation where they're like, oh well, I'm a ref in the NFL and I have my schedule wrapped around Sundays and I have stuff going on the other days where I'm not refereeing. So maybe it was kind of like a last minute thing where they brought in some college guys that had to look at the rules and try to memorize it and try making the best calls as they can without screwing up the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, another thing that I've been hearing too is they make the rule book so thick
Yeah.
that how can these guys possibly remember every single rule? And a lot of times they don't even know what they're looking at because they
Right.
changed so many rules throughout the years. But yeah, stuff like this, I think it's just common sense to let things go.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I was on the other side of you guys on the whole. Well, kind of on the other side. There was a lot of penalties I didn't, or that I agreed with you guys on while I was rooting for the Colts in that game. But yeah, there were some calls I definitely would question alongside you guys as an opponent of the other team.
Yeah, sounds like Jeff Saturday was actually asked about him because we as the fans of the Vikings look at it as, oh well, they just screwed over our team. No,
Right.
those refs were just bad. They had no idea what they were doing.
Definitely.
They screwed both teams multiple times. But yeah, it was a great game to go to, though. I mean,
It was.
biggest comeback in NFL history. Glad that we got to be there for that.
Yep.
I don't know. So my whole thing about the Vikings being pretenders last week and saying that the Cowboys are also pretenders, I think they both, I mean, that both of those statements look pretty good. Obviously good for the Vikings to rally all the way back, but man, the Colts have 4 wins. You shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. Good for them to rally back, but how do you put yourself in that situation in the first place? It's wild to me that they allowed themselves to get down by that much, and I'm a little concerned for the playoffs because if you do that in the playoffs, you're not coming back from down 33.
Well, what part of the team are you most concerned about? And don't just say all of it. Like, there's got to be specifics. Like special teams, they gave up quite a bit of yards on returns against Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously the block punt for the touchdown. Um, later on that game, he was punting phenomenally. I'm pretty sure he got him down at the 1, if I recall, or
Yeah.
somewhere within
Yeah.
10 yards. I don't remember, but he had a good punt. It kind of seemed like the Vikings were patching up their mistakes throughout the game.
Yeah. I mean, they gave up when you take away the defensive touchdowns, they only gave up 22 points, if I'm correct,
Yep.
which in one half, that's
Right.
pretty bad, but they cleaned it up. And I mean, I don't think special teams is a problem to look at. Yeah, it was a
Mhm.
problem in that game, but I think Ryan Wright is pretty dang good punter.
Yeah, so one of the big issues too with the defense, I mean, there's a couple more black guys that they got just because the offense had issues. I mean, you look at they tried to fake a punt inside their own territory. They also just straight up went for it on fourth down one time. So they gave their defense a short field quite a bit. And I mean, I'm still very concerned about the defense. I think the defense is, I mean, they looked a lot better, like you said, the 22 points, that's not bad. But they need to still get better. Everything that we saw in the second half, do that. They ran a lot of cover one in the second half and they blitzed a lot more. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 60% of dropbacks they were blitzing in the second half compared to, I want to say it was only 30 or 40% in the first half. So obviously the blitzing helped. Um, Also helps when there's a statue playing quarterback. I mean, if you're blitzing, you're a lot more likely to get to the quarterback if he doesn't want to move his feet.
Mhm.
But yeah, the biggest issue I think is just their linebackers defensively. We saw a couple times where they use different sub packages to get as few linebackers on the field as possible, which probably a good idea at this point. But yeah, the offense stalled out quite a bit in the first half, and that was an issue. So overall, I think the biggest thing that you need to worry about is just keep doing what you were doing in the second half defensively and offensively try to limit the amount of times that you're going three and out.
All right, so the Pro Bowl rosters just came out. Let's go through it, and I want to hear who you guys, the one player you have on your roster that you think should have got in on this starting team. Quarterbacks: Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins. On the AFC, we got Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Running backs, we got Saquon, Tony Pollard, and Miles Sanders. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Kyle Juszczyk, and Patrick Ricard for the fullbacks. Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, T.J. Hawkinson, and George Kittle. I think that covers most of the positions.
What was the NFC running backs again?
Pollard, Barkley, and Sanders.
Can I make mine?
Think that covers most area people would have most concerns for. So what do you guys have?
I'm taking Miles Sanders out and I'm putting Christian McCaffrey in his place.
I like that.
I think
Yeah,
that
I think that's pretty fair. So yeah, so if you want to go down the running back path here, I think we can scratch Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry
Really?
is, yeah, I think he's having a good season, but I think, if you look at like players that are just carrying their offense on their back, I think we seriously need to look at Ramondre Stevenson.
oh yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson, heavily praised by his head coach Bill Belichick, which means a lot. But yeah, I think Stevenson's a player that should have been listed in the Pro Bowl.
It's
I
a good
feel
point.
like I know this quarterback list is pretty stacked for the AFC, but I still feel like Tua should have made it over Burrow.
It's It is a difficult decision because Tua's played really well. Now, of course, the last couple of weeks he's struggled a little bit, but yeah, I mean it's obviously like a popularity contest, but what's the deal with the fan voting, but then they still
I think
don't
it
like
counts for 1/3 of the vote. I don't know where the rest of the vote comes from.
that's so weird.
It's probably the
Yeah.
same votes that come from the the MVP. What are they called? They're like
I
journalists
mean,
or whatever.
there's got to be some player
Oh
voting
yeah.
involved too.
Like what's his name? He
Yeah.
he was he Josh Allen. He was reporting with Josh Allen, like interviewing him, and Josh Allen went out to give him a handshake.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like is it Peter? What is it? Peter something. I don't remember. It doesn't matter, but I do believe it's a bunch of journalists.
Well, that being said, I guess we'll talk to everyone later. And thanks for checking us out. If you could like and subscribe and comment, that'd be greatly appreciated. Check us out anywhere you can get your podcasts, and we'll talk to you next time.